Well, I don't want to give it away before the availability report, but Shay Holmes is not here this weekend. Had a commitment that just unfortunately hit at the same time as the game. Yeah, we'll leave it at that for now.
And just following up on that, we just talked to Jess a little bit about just, the challenges that North Carolina can present with how they play in possession, and just wondering what you all have seen from them in their first game this season, and what kind of, just from your perspective, the kinds of threats that they present.
Yeah, I think you have to accept certain things against North Carolina, and you have to accept that they're going to have a lot of the ball. And if you don't accept that, the game can be really frustrating. I actually think two of our better performances last year came against North Carolina. We were committed to a game plan. We stuck with it. We caused them problems in both games. I thought we were really unfortunate to come away from here last year with nothing. So, yeah, I think we want to be aggressive. We want to defensively be solid. We want to try and catch them in transition. I think that's an area that we can look at to try and catch them in. But no, they're a very good team. They play a really good style of football. But how can you eliminate their strengths within that, knowing that a lot of their strengths build around what they want to do with the ball, and then hit them in areas of weakness against them. So yeah, they're a very unique team to play, I would say. But I always enjoy these games against them because they're very tactical and very strategic for me, which are the games I enjoy the most.
Thanks, Susie. And then Jada, go ahead.
Thanks for the time, Laura. Wanted to ask, what have you kind of picked up from the team after the first match? Maybe positives and negative things to work on with them.
Yeah, I think I said this after the game. I think that the overarching feeling was that if the game had gone on a little bit longer, we would arguably have won the game. I got the whole, they should have probably been down to 10 players before they were email this week, which is always frustrating because I think, again, those are game-changing moments that can swing the momentum in your favour. But I think the overarching emotion was good platform to build from, areas that we did okay in, areas that we want to get better in, but we're sort of looking at these first 3 games of the season prior to the FIFA break of a real evaluation process of who we are. And I think last year, from a mentality perspective, we maybe wouldn't have got something out of that game last year. Whereas I think that was a huge positive for us, that we not only got a point out of it, but were the team on the front foot for the last 30 minutes of the game. So that's a big positive. And that we limited them to not many opportunities that were good opportunities for them, which I think for us in where we're at right now, being hard to beat is going to be a big element of who we want to be. So I think the overall was, we felt like it was a good stepping stone on the foundations that we've built in pre-season.
Thanks, Jada. Any other questions? Steve, go ahead.
Hi, Laura. I want to ask, North Carolina has been a particular bugbear for the Reign over the years, particularly playing in North Carolina. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what you think makes it so challenging to go to Cary, and how you feel like the team's going to be able to turn it around and get points out of this game.
Yeah, I think every team in the league can say that about North Carolina. Their home record is excellent. My personal record against North Carolina is actually not that bad. So I think you've just, like I said before, you've just got to accept things here. And if you don't accept them, which I think often teams don't, you can fall into the trap that they want you to fall into when you're here. So I think putting a game plan together that will frustrate them and give you a chance to stay in the game is the key when you're out here. So yeah, I think that's a big part for us coming out here. I think last year was the first time I've lost out here in a while, so in my very short recollection, but I could be wrong. So yeah, I think that, you know, they have a very solid home record for a reason. I think that's probably built off their years of being very dominant in the league. And yeah, they play a style that can be frustrating to play against. That's for sure.
Thanks, Steve. And then we'll go to Jeff. And other Jeff, if you have your question, I didn't see it in my inbox, so if you want to drop it in the chat, we can get to it later. Jeff, go ahead.
Hey, fine. Hey, Laura. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Just wondering, maybe zooming out a little bit here, wider lens of you know, the experience you have in this league, and looking at obviously up to 14 teams, 16 coming, and just kind of how things stand in terms of, you know, the quality across the league, how predictable or unpredictable results might be. Do you feel like any kind of shift in this season? I mean, we saw a bit of a difference last season in terms of, you know, the gap from first to last, obviously. So, I mean, how does it feel to you coming into this year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the exact stat, but I feel this way for ourselves, so I'll only speak about us. I think the thing that's changed in the league, and I think the CBA is a big impactor of this, is it's harder to blow a team up now than it was before. You could really make wholesale changes previously, but now with some of the rules around the league of, you know, trades having to be mutually consented, as an example, that it's become harder to, you know, player for player trades are harder. You know, I think we were only one of few in the off season. I can't even think of another one off the top of my head where a trade happened that a player and another player moved. Get that stat. So I think that is challenging. I think the reaction after the first free agency period for a lot of teams was to sign players on longer deals because you didn't want them to fall into free agency. But in the second round of CBA negotiations, the way that the CBA is written now, I don't think you'll see that often now. I don't think you'll see, outside of the 1%ers, I don't think you'll see long-term contracts, because the harsh reality is, like, if you sign them, you got to know they're going to be with you long term. Like, before you could sign them and you had that, you know, trade potential out, or transfer out, whatever it looked like, that's definitely harder to do now than it used to be. And, you know, the influx of young players is another wrinkle to the system, I think, and how people recruit and how they utilize that, right? I think we've been a club that has gone down that route, whether it be to have them with us now, whether it be to sign them and loan them and get them back at a later date. You know, there's a lot of ways that you can fill out your roster and build a roster now that's different than it was before. But the thing that's probably the most challenging for teams is if you feel like you need to do a complete rebuild. And, you know, a lot of people have talked about our 2024 season, it being a pretty close replica to 2013. And is 2025 going to look like 2014? The harsh reality is we made so many changes in that year that we're not in a position to do that now. It's much harder to do. So have we made changes? Yes. Have we made the wholesale changes like we did then? No, it's hard. So I do think that that's a wrinkle. And obviously the teams that were successful haven't made a lot of changes. The teams that weren't necessarily as successful have made changes, but maybe not the wholesale changes that we could have done in the past.
Thanks, Laura. That helps a lot. I don't see any other trade for from a quick glance that's player for player either. So
I just checked too, and I confirmed it's the only one. That's on.
Knowledge is power, people. Knowledge
all
is power.
right, appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff. Any